Hello everyone. In today's video I am going to take a look at the blitz game between Salem and Carlsen. At the time of the recording actually Carlsen is struggling in a blitz match against Nakamura, but that's another story. So let's see what happened in this game. So d4, knight f6, e4, e6, so starts from the Nimzo move order, but after knight c3 Carlsen goes for d5. So after by now a few well-known moves for us, we reach this position with a4. Carlsen played knight h5, bishop takes e7, queen e7, a5. So yesterday I looked at the game when queen g5 was played, but now we are going to look at knight df6, which is the most popular move in the position, and I have to say this is the most logical move as well. So the idea is to open the diagonal for the bishop, and black wants to play g6, knight g7, and bishop f5. So that's the goal here with black. So in the game, Salem played queen c2, which is an interesting move, but I don't think it is the most challenging, to be honest. So after we looked at this game, I will show you a brief line that what I would aim for with white in this position. And my plan is that tomorrow we are going to see another game where we did played with the white pieces, and he also played in a very interesting way. Okay, so here Salem played queen c2, and I believe Carlsen made an maybe inaccurate decision at this, or maybe, okay, this is a little bit hard to say. I would definitely go a6 at this moment. So I don't see any reason not to play a6 at this moment. So the point is that we completely eliminate white's a6 ideas, and this plan of g6, knight g7, bishop f5 is still in time. So, for example, if white goes knight a4, trying to take advantage of these weakened squares on the queen side, then black just goes g6, queen to c5, for example, knight g7. So bishop f5 is coming, and okay, white can play something like knight g3, but for example, after queen d8, which is a pretty nice move, suggested by the computer, black has absolutely no problem. So the idea is that black doesn't want to trade queens now once the knight is on g3. He has ideas like h5, h4, and then playing bishop f5. And actually, according to the computer, there is nothing better than playing queen b6, offering the trade queen e7, going back to c5, offering the trade, and it is just an equal possession in that way. So I believe a6 would have been the cleanest. So Carlsen went g6, which gives the chance for white to play a6. And this is an interesting move. I mean, this is a move, as I already mentioned in yesterday's video, that I would normally like to make work with the white pieces. So here, in a slightly different position yesterday, we said that b5 is kind of a must, but here it's just a very bad move because, what was the point of b5? That black would somehow try to collect this a6 pawn, which is not the case now since the knight is not on d7, and here, for example, a nice positional move is knight b1, immediately hitting the pawn on c6, and the knight can go like knight d2, knight b3, and so on. So it's just a huge advantage. But black can play b6 in this position, and again I would like to refer to the previous video when black played in this queen g5 variation, when black could have played b6, then the problem was e4. But now the e4 square is under firm control, so white cannot open the position like that. And black will play something like bishop d7, rook c8 with an acceptable, interesting position. So yeah, it would have been still fine for Carlsen. So this g6, little bit risky, but still fine. But after knight a4, what Salem played, I believe Carlsen made a huge mistake, at least strategically speaking. Of course, it's not losing, but makes the position super difficult. He played knight g7. So he's just continuing the plan without addressing white's ideas on the queen side. So a6, in my opinion, is a must, and the game can continue in a similar fashion than what I showed with this queen c5, knight g7, knight g3 line. So this would have been clearly the best. But in this case, we can see what happens if black completely ignores white's ideas. So of course, Salem played a6, very strong move. The c6 pawn is horribly weak now. Black has now no b6, of course, because the pawn is hanging, so he needs the tempo. And now knight c5. So this is what we want, of course. Very strong knight on. Sorry, I'm just trying to do a green, but somehow I don't manage. So very strong knight on c5, and pawn on c6 is very weak. So this is what we want. Basically, on the queen side, we already won the game. And now bishop f5. So Carlsen executes the plan, but it will be even make this pawn on c6 weaker, because the bishop from d7 cannot protect it. And actually, the bishop on c8 was not. I mean, normally it's a horrible piece, right? But once the pawn reaches a6, it kind of has some sense to keep this bishop on the board, because, for example, after moves like rook b8, rook b6, at least black can slow down white's play on the queen side by attacking this pawn on a6. So this bishop f5 was played, and now knight f4. It's a very strong move. Rook ac8. Now rook ac1. Rook fc1 was also good. So rook ac1, h5. I mean, there is not much to do on the king side, to be honest. I mean, this king is completely safe, and like black has no pieces to even create threats. So rook fe1, queen d6, and knight b7. Another strong move, opening the c file for the heavy pieces. Queen went to b8, and now h3, which is again just very, very normal. I mean, black can dream about some ideas like knight g4, maybe g5, and to hit on h2. I mean, of course, these are not really working, but still better to prevent those ideas altogether. Maybe f3 was even better, because it also prepares e4 in some cases, and of course it completely restricts the f6 knight. So here black pretty much cannot make an active move, and okay, with white we can move something like queen f2, queen h4 in the near future, or queen f2, queen g3, preparing to push e4, for example. So, but okay, what Salem played h3 is also very good. Carlsen played knight e4, and now f3. Not spoiling anything, but easiest would have been, in my opinion, just to take this knight. So get rid of that active piece and keep this bishop on the board. Bishop e4, and let's say queen e2, for example. And we have very simple play. Just attack this c6 pawn a few times. Probably playing rook c5, rook fc1, rook ec1. Sorry. If needed, maybe even knight a5 is possible. It's a nightmare for black. It's a lost position according to computer, and it's very hard to argue. Instead f3, also good. Knight g3, queen f2, so forcing black to play h4. Now take, and knight d3. This is also pretty nice. I mean, the knight has nice prospects on b4 or e5. And okay, Black managed to, okay, so all of a sudden I managed to do green when I wanted to highlight that these knights are actually not good. So yeah, so it looks nice to get very strong outpost on g3, but okay, if you ask what is the knight doing exactly, that's not helping too much with the defense of the c6 pawn. And it's also good to support this knight, but if it's doing nothing and it's supported, it's on the square doing nothing, so to say. So black played f6, preventing knight e5, but then knight b4 came. Rook e6, knight c5, rook d6, rook cd1, also pretty logical. So hinting at e4 ideas. Queen to b6, knight d3. Also a good move, rook e8. And yeah, here, I mean, this is actually a somewhat strange situation what happened here, because it's really like strategically winning position for white, and he didn't do anything in the next 6 moves, and he had to resign because he just put the pieces into clumsy squares. And of course, if you give a lot of time for black, then he can maybe create something. So Salem played rook c1. It would have been very easy just to play b4, stabilize this knight on c5, and then e4 idea is absolutely in the air. Probably knight f4 we will prepare for it, or we can put the knight to other squares, but I guess f4 just looks very good. Also e4 can work even without any preparation because of tactical reasons, and that the queen is completely cut from the play. So yeah, there is not of course, white still has to convert and everything, but okay, for example, also knight c1 preparing e4 and playing knight b3 is an idea, so the knight also protects on d4, and then we push e4, and I mean eventually it has to collapse with the black pieces. So rook c1 is a little bit strange, so he again wants to go back for the c6 pawn, but I mean we just removed everything to prepare e4, and of course I'm talking, it's a blitz game, so like it's completely normal to make such mistakes, but like objectively this position was just horrible for black. So b4, and just both players were doing their things, and okay, rook b8, knight f4, rook e8, and all of a sudden black managed to put quite a big pressure on the e3 pawn, and e4 is still well controlled, so we cannot play that. Salem played queen c2, so some x-ray on g6, but after queen b8, knight d3, Carlsen just played g5, and suddenly the knight on f4 is, I mean, it's not trap, but it has to go back to e2, and then rook e3 is just winning for for black. So it was a sad end to a very well played blitz game by Salem Saleh. So basically, he effortlessly achieved the winning position against Carlsen after Carlsen went wrong with allowing first of all a6 and then trading the bishops, which made the c6 pawn even weaker. But in any case, as I said, I am not completely sure how white should continue after a6 if black plays with this move order. So I would like to offer maybe an interesting alternative for white, and that is starting with a6. So the point is that it's stopping black's a6 and creates a target on c6, which well into the future, but as we will see, it may be relevant. So black, of course, plays b6. I mean, b5 is just a huge positional error, similarly to what I said earlier, just weakening a lot of squares. So b6. And now an interesting move, knight c1. It's basically a start of complete regroupment of the pieces, and this is really connected with the c6 pawn. And an idea which is I believe there was no game yet in practice where this happened in a way I will show. So two things. I mean, this knight would be really nice on e5, and we also want to prepare for this bishop trade what black wants to offer. So black plays g6. I mean, hard to find any other reasonable move, and now bishop e2. So it's a very surprising move in some sense. Because okay, why to remove the bishop? It looks like kind of strange, but it opens the square for the knight, which can go towards e5. So of course now bishop f5 not only doesn't make too much sense because there is no trade there, but I believe after g4 it is losing material right away. So black plays knight g4, knight g7, it's a logical move, knight d3, and now bishop f5 makes more sense, trying to take this knight on d3, but now we play knight e5. So it's a very long journey with this knight, but suddenly it arrived in a very, very nice position. So, and now you can see the point of starting the whole thing with a6, that it's a tempo on c6. So just imagine this position with the pawns back on a5 and b7, then this knight could be challenged right away with knight d7, for example. But here black has no time for this. Let's say plays rook c8. And now the second part of this whole concept, because I mean somehow it has to be followed up. So one knight is not enough to win the game or to have advantage, but here we have very strong continuation g4. Even though we are pushing pawns in front of the king, I mean we have space advantage and the king is very safe. It's rather white who is playing on the king side, so we don't have to be worried. And once bishop e6, then we play f4. And we have excellent control in the center. Of course, this is something completely different than the normal f3 e4 plan, what we are trying to achieve in this system, but sometimes we have to adjust our ideas, and I believe this is one of the cases. And this looks very interesting to me. It's very hard to get rid of this knight on e5, and even if black manages, then we can have a very strong pawn formation, and this knight on g7 will be absolutely awful. I mean, it's already pretty awful because of the g4 pawn, but if these pawns are starting to run, or even just fe after black can trying to get rid of it, it's just very bad. And otherwise we just want to play something like queen e1, queen to g3, so bringing the queen over to the king side, then maybe doubling with the rooks and pushing on the king side. So maybe f5 is an idea, maybe bringing back the bishop at some moment, and some h4, h5 or g5. So it's a very dangerous play for white here, and it's provided by the knight on e5, or if black tries to get rid of it by the pawn on e5. It's also very important to note that all of this is possible because this pawn is on h6, and if it would be on h7, then if the knight moves, then f6 would be the typical queen's gambit way to get rid of the knight. But once the g6 pawn is weakened, it's not easy to do. So once again, we want this queen maneuver, then doubling the rooks, and to me it looks like a pretty challenging idea for black to meet. So that would be my recommendation, but it needs practical testing, as they say. And tomorrow we are going to see another game where Vidit was playing with the white pieces, as I said, and he also played a pretty interesting idea, which is also pretty challenging for black. So I believe against this knight df6 move, we are doing pretty well with the white pieces. So I hope you like this video, and what I would like to briefly mention is that since Christmas is very close, Chessable is again doing a big sale. So again, as I normally recommend, if you like these openings, or there is a free video which I always put into the description, and you want to check it out, then of course we are we are very glad with Angelica if you like these things and would like to play these openings. Okay, so hope to see you very soon, and for now, just thanks for watching.